8 years ago, my girlfriend's younger brother knocked on our door with 2 bags and a plan. He had just gotten out of the Marines, spent a few years doing support and base-related work, never saw combat, but served his time. His plan coming out was straightforward: use his GI Bill benefits, pursue a real education, figure out a long-term career, and move forward with his life. He just needed somewhere to land temporarily while he got himself together. We said yes without hesitation. We cleared out the spare room, told him to make himself comfortable, and meant it. No rent, no bills, no utilities. We covered everything: food, internet, electricity, water. We even went out of our way to cook full meals regularly so he always had something decent to eat. On top of that, we actively helped him research job opportunities, connected him with people we knew, pointed him toward resources that could help him get started. We genuinely wanted to see him succeed. The word temporary is funny, though. It sounds so certain when you first say it. Temporary, like it has a built-in expiration date. But temporary has a way of quietly stretching when nobody holds it accountable. Weeks turned into months. Months stopped announcing themselves. The first year, we gave him space. He was adjusting, transitioning out of military life, figuring out civilian routines. That takes time, and we understood that completely. We didn't pressure him. We checked in occasionally, asked how the school research was going, whether he had looked into any programs yet. He always had an answer ready, still looking, comparing options, figuring out the right path. The answers sounded reasonable enough in year 1. By year 2, they started sounding familiar. He never enrolled in anything, never submitted a single application, never held a job longer than a few weeks before quietly stopping. What he did do, consistently and completely, was game. He built his entire existence around it, staying up until the sun came through the windows, sleeping until 3 in the afternoon, eating whatever was in the kitchen, avoiding the living room whenever anyone came over, disappearing into his room like a ghost the moment he heard unfamiliar voices. His wife was still there through all of this, working full-time as a cashier, carrying both of them financially, coming home exhausted every night to a husband who hadn't moved from his chair since she left in the morning. She never complained loudly, but you could see it in her face over the years, something slowly going out. Eventually, she stopped pretending everything was fine. She cheated and left him. I want to be clear that cheating is wrong. There is no version of that where it becomes acceptable. But when she explained her reasons, sitting in our kitchen one afternoon, I understood exactly how someone arrives at that point. She said she no longer felt anything for someone who had lost all ambition and passion for life, that she had spent years trying to love a person who had completely disappeared inside himself, that she felt more alone inside the marriage than she ever had being single. She left, the divorce was finalized, and for a brief moment, something shifted in him. He came to us broken, genuinely broken, admitted openly that he had wasted years of his life, said he was embarrassed and ashamed, promised with real emotion in his voice that he wanted to change, that he was ready to start over, that he finally understood what he had been throwing away. We held that conversation close. We supported him through the grief, through the paperwork, through the quiet months that followed. We believed him. Then his parents moved back onto the property to emotionally support him through the divorce recovery. The house had originally been bought by them before being transferred into our names, so technically it belongs to us now, but the family attachment makes everything more layered and complicated than a simple legal document. And then nothing changed. Not slowly, not partially. Nothing. He is 28 years old. He wakes up at 3 in the afternoon. He games until sunrise. He has no job, no school enrollment, no plan, no visible effort toward any of the things he promised that afternoon when his voice cracked and we thought we were finally watching something turn around. I have brought this up to my girlfriend more times than I can count over the years, more times than was comfortable, more times than felt fair to keep doing. Almost every single time, the conversation went one of two ways. She either got genuinely angry at me for bringing it up at all, treating it like an attack on her family rather than a legitimate concern about someone we were supporting, or she told me he was working on a study program, figuring things out, had a new plan in motion. Plans that never materialized into a single concrete action. Her parents privately admitted to me that they were exhausted from talking to him, that they had given up trying because nothing they said ever produced any change, that they didn't know what else to do. Everyone in that house could see exactly what was happening. Nobody was willing to do anything about it. I had started to feel like I was standing in an echo chamber, surrounded by people nodding at the problem while collectively deciding to leave it untouched forever. 2 weeks ago, I quietly made a decision. I went into the router settings and set a Wi-Fi pause. Midnight to 6 in the morning. 6 hours of no internet access. That was it. Since my girlfriend and I pay for essentially every utility in this house, including the internet, I felt I had the right to make that call. And honestly, I thought about who it would actually affect. Every normal functioning adult in this house is asleep during those hours. The only person whose life would be disrupted by a midnight Wi-Fi cutoff is someone who is still awake at midnight playing video games. I did not announce it, I just did it. My girlfriend found out and she was upset. Not about her brother, about the Wi-Fi. She said she couldn't sleep knowing there was tension in the house connected to the internet situation. She also told me something I had not fully understood before. Growing up, her grandparents had controlled things in the household in ways that made her feel suffocated and powerless. Rules that felt arbitrary and punishing. And something about the Wi-Fi pause had pulled her back into that feeling of having no agency in her own space. I listened to all of it. I told her I understood. I told her her grandparents did was genuinely unfair, and I was sorry she carried that. And then I told her something that had been sitting in my chest for a long time. I told her that she was not a child anymore. And neither was her brother. This was not a grandparent punishing teenagers for staying up past bedtime. This was a 28-year-old grown man spending the better part of a decade completely avoiding adulthood while every person around him financially absorbed every consequence of that choice. There is a difference between protecting someone and removing every reason they have to change. I said what I had been holding back for years. Somehow, everyone in this house sleeps peacefully every single night while watching her brother disappear further into himself. Nobody loses sleep over that. Nobody wakes up at 3 in the morning unable to stop thinking about a 28-year-old man who hasn't tried in 8 years. But the moment the internet goes off at midnight, suddenly that is the unbearable thing. That is the crisis. That is what keeps people awake. She said I was being cruel towards someone who might be genuinely depressed. I said that enabling someone's depression by removing every consequence and every reason to seek help is not kindness. It is just a more comfortable way of watching someone drown. After the post got more attention than I expected, I sat down with my girlfriend and had the most honest conversation we have ever had. I told her I could not continue living inside a situation where one person refuses to take any accountability while everyone else quietly carries the weight. I told her I had been patient because I loved her and cared about her family. But patience without any movement in return eventually becomes something else. It becomes participation. I told her that if nothing real changes, I would need to move out, that I could not build a future inside a house that had decided to pause indefinitely for someone who was not pausing for anyone. That conversation was hard, but it needed to happen. The plan going forward is real deadlines, measurable steps. The first priority is connecting him with VA resources, which should have happened years ago, and which I'm embarrassed none of us pushed harder for earlier. After that, career workshops, employment assistance programs, anything that creates structure and forward movement. I told her clearly, I am willing to support someone who is actively trying. I have proven that over 8 years. What I am no longer willing to do is fund the decision to never try at all. His situation may involve depression. That is real, and that deserves real help. But real help means therapy, VA support, medical intervention. Real help does not mean free housing, free food, and unlimited internet forever with no expectations attached. I did not do this out of cruelty. I did it because I looked around one day and realized that the kindest thing anyone had done for him in years might be the one thing that finally made him uncomfortable enough to move. Was I wrong?